Ahoy hoy, it's your boy Hawker back with another video, this time taking a look at Hampus and how he still had impact even when he had a low fragging game. I think one of the big differences between pro players and your average Joes is their ability to understand how they can still have impact even when they're not landing their shots. This is an idea that Elige brought up in a great podcast he did with DDK, where he said their sports psychologist had told the Liquid players to think about their game in an A tier level, a B tier level, and a C tier level. And the idea is that even if you're playing at your C tier, even if you're not playing well, you still need to try and make sure you can maximize your effectiveness. And maybe if your aim isn't on point, you can still have impacts in other ways. So let's not waste any more time, let's jump on in. Hampus ended this game 6 for 14, which clearly isn't the best stats-wise, but even if you look at his ADR, he's not actually that behind Nork, who got 15 kills, and Nip won this map 16-4. After not being needed in the first two rounds, Hampus goes ahead and plays up close at Yard in this first gun round. I love the choice of which round he decides to do this in, since it's the first gun round, and it's very common for teams to just run the standard outside smokes to begin with. And because of the way OG line up these smokes, Hampus gets to hear them being thrown, he gets to hear some steps coming close, and hears that players aren't running away. So it's a lot of early information, and even though it's only a 1-for-1 trade from Hampus, he definitely helps slow OG down and spots at least 2 players on the death cam. This little bit of time wasting done by Hampus means that OG can't push up towards Yard in time. They can't make the most of their smokes as they fade before they get close, and Naught gets this clear line of sight with the AWP. OG do still manage to get down secret, but because of all the information that Hampus has got for his team, Twist has been able to push into ramp room. He gets a really easy fight against an unsuspecting Alexi B, and then once OG get onto the B site in a post plant, even though this is a 3v3, which in theory should be good for OG, the fact that they've already used a lot of their nades and, importantly, all of their smokes getting down secret in the first place means this post plant becomes much more difficult. They can't really gain good ground and good positions to play from, and Nip end up getting all the kills, even if they don't win the round because they didn't have the kill. Still though, you get to see all the impact that Hampus had here. Firstly with the kill, secondly with the slowdown so OG couldn't use their smokes, thirdly with the information that allowed Twist to push into lobby and get that easier kill with his weaker weapon, and finally with the lack of nades that OG had in the post plant. So a lot to like here in this first round. Obviously there were some rounds where Hampus just got out-dueled, like this next one where he should probably get a kill with the Deke here. Or this round after that where MBK just popped his head clean off. Into round 6 though, Hampus decides to take the hit for the team and takes the weaker weapon, the MP9, up close, aggressive at Yard again. He makes sure to have Nork covering him with the AWP from top silo, and makes sure to have Nork ready with a flashbang, because remember, in that previous round, Hampus could hear those smokes OG were throwing because they were throwing them closer to Yard than most teams do. So once he hears those pins being pulled again in this round, he instantly calls for Nork to flash him over the top to try and make a play with the MP9. It's great in theory, just not great in execution. Hampus ends up whiffing these shots and doesn't get a kill. Taking a look at the radar though, you're going to see as soon as Hampus spots 4 players at Yard, Rez makes an instant reaction to try and cover the Yard position. Rez makes another aggressive move to jump up on top of this box to spot the cross to the red container. It ends up being another 1-for-1 trade, but because Nork has mollied the backside of red and because of all this delaying NIP have been doing, once again, these smokes fade and OG are kind of stuck in no man's land. Definitely doesn't help OG that they use their last 2 smokes both on main here, but when you're put under pressure like this, you're bound to make mistakes. And then to make it even better for NIP, because Hampus got so much information, because he spotted all 4 players pushing Yard, Twist has decided to just completely give up ramp room and rotate over to Yard to help cover this position. This is now 4 separate CTs that have been fighting Yard in this round, and because OG don't have many nades left, the fights become much easier for NIP, and they end up winning the round in big part thanks to Hampus and his information play, which allowed all these quick rotations. Going into round 10, OG are on a slightly weaker buy, so Hampus decides to play the A site early, putting this molly down on door just to make sure that OG can't get away with any fast A shenanigans. And then once Twist requires assistance on ramp, Hampus is quick to rotate, he gets this first kill, but because Twist is in a committed position, he has to continue to try and help fight. And he decides to swing to make sure that Nork behind him can also peek and get the trade. So just the one kill for Hampus here, but he definitely does his part at just being a solid teammate, making sure the Orc behind him could peek out and shut it down. Into round 12, Hampus puts down this incendiary early to try and stop any attempted outside smokes from OG, which is understandable. OG have been going for these standard yard smokes pretty often in the latter part of this game, and if he were to have blocked one of these smokes from landing in its right spot, it would have really helped NIP from denying that secret play. He then sits on a more passive angle while OG run down the clock, but once OG throw their yard smokes, Hampus still has his counter utility and he decides on the fly to make an aggressive play. He drops a smoke of his own, gets up close towards the red container and gets a kill before again being traded. Somewhat similar to those previous rounds though, this seems to be enough to slow OG down to really thwart their game plan. They have to try and re-up these smokes as they awkwardly attempt to move into A, and NIP end up getting quite a few favourable fights. Furthermore, while Hampus was once again spotting so many of these players at yard and hearing all these steps, Plopsky this time decides to take initiative. He makes this move into hut at just the right time to get this kill onto Alexi B, and this is a play he might not make if Hampus didn't get all that information, but it's much safer once you know that so many of your opponents are at yard, and then Plopsky can just sit back on the A site with little time left on the clock, get this final kill, and secure the round win for NIP. Going into round 13, Hampus throws that same molly at yard to try and disrupt those yard smokes, and then decides to play up at heaven on the A side. He hears that a smoke hits his molly, but he's comfortable leaving Nork alone to cover yard, potentially partly because Rez went aggressive in lobby in this round and spotted multiple players, so it's less likely to be a full-on yard play. Instead, Hampus decides to double stack into the ramp room, and this ends up working out really nicely. Twist and Hampus can use their nades between them to force OG away from ramp. Hampus can just spot for information and make sure that Twist puts down this incendiary at the right time. And then Hampus is even able to peek into ramp to make sure that Twist can rotate up to A. And with such little time left on the clock, OG are forced to try their hand elsewhere. Nork gets a kill over at yard, where OG don't have many nades left at this point, so they just die to the AWPer. And then because Twist has rotated up to the A site, it is a much easier hold for NIP. Again, Hampus is in the right place at the right time, just to get the information and just to make sure his teammates are set up for success. And finally, I'm going to show you one round on the T side, because we haven't even touched on the fact that, remember, Hampus is the IGL of this NIP squad. I'm sure he's making a lot of calls around these plays he's making and telling his teammates the information and the ideas that he's having. And this pistol round looked like a really good read to me. Just yesterday, Alexi B had taken those dualies onto top hut to try and fight door early, but NIP have a molly down, they have Hampus's nades to make sure they can get down the vents quickly for the drop. And then notice how once they get to the B site, Hampus is the man without the Kevlar. So he actually just kind of stands out in the open, basically begging for Valda to shoot him, because all he wants to do here is draw the fire at him and make sure that the bomb can get onto the site safely, and make sure that Plopsky, the man with the Kevlar, can try and get up close to the ramp and can try and get the kill later. It doesn't end up mattering in the end though, because Valda misses all his shots anyway, Hampus gets to survive, they go on to win the round and the game. So a lot of good stuff from Hampus here, and I think he was showing you guys a lot of the things you can try to do to set up your teammates when you're maybe not having a great game individually. Thank you guys for watching. I've been a busy boy casting at DreamHack recently. I'm going to be casting today as well, but today is going to be the final day of my casting, so I'll make sure to get back on the YouTube grind. Plenty more in-depth videos coming soon, so make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and all that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Only true fans who made it to the end of the video get to hear me sing. Love you guys.